Carpal tunnel syndrome is common during pregnancy, particularly in the third trimester. Although it usually resolves after giving birth, you don't want to put up with all that pain and discomfort, particularly when you've got so many other things to deal with. In this episode of Nourish, we're going to discuss 3 dietary tips that may help to improve your pregnancy carpal tunnel and are also good for your baby. Stay tuned. Hello, if this is our first time connecting, welcome. My name is Melanie McGrice and I'm a pre and postnatal dietitian. I help couples give their babies the best start possible with the power of good food. Make sure that you subscribe to my channel and connect with me on my social media. You'll find all of the details in the description box below this video. In today's episode of Nourish, I want to share 3 dietary changes that you might like to try if you're suffering with pregnancy carpal tunnel syndrome. Now, before getting into my dietary tips, I want to stress that there's no good research into dietary advice for pregnancy carpal tunnel. So all of these suggestions are plausible tips based on the physiology of the condition and my experience of working with mamas during pregnancy. So I'd love to hear the impact that they make for you. Now let's get started. Number 1, although researchers haven't determined exactly what causes pregnancy carpal tunnel syndrome, it's most commonly thought to be caused by fluid retention. Now, fluid retention is common during pregnancy, especially in the latter stages, as your progesterone levels surge and your growing uterus squashes the veins in your pelvis and around your heart. It's fluid retention that causes your feet and fingers to swell so that you can't get your shoes on or get your rings off. Obviously, no dietary trick is going to magically counteract these pregnancy changes, but you can minimize any excess fluid retention. One of the best ways is to review your sodium intake. Sodium is primarily found in salt. Try to limit your salt intake to less than 1 teaspoon per day during pregnancy by skipping the salt in cooking and reading labels to opt for reduced salt foods. Reducing salt intake will not only be beneficial for your pregnancy carpal tunnel syndrome, but will also be beneficial for your bub's future health by reducing their risk of developing heart disease in the future. Okay, so dietary tip number 2. Now, although its effectiveness is controversial, there is some evidence to suggest that vitamin B6 supplements may be beneficial for carpal tunnel syndrome. The theory is that vitamin B6 assists with nerve function and that carpal tunnel syndrome is a condition caused by the median nerve of the hand being squeezed at the wrist. And one interesting study found that 68% of people who took vitamin B6 had an improvement in symptoms compared to just 14% who didn't. I must point out though that there were quite a few methodological issues with the study, and most importantly, it wasn't conducted in people who were pregnant. Vitamin B6 supplements are used for a number of other conditions during pregnancy, such as treating nausea, to reduce the risk of preeclampsia, and to reduce the risk of preterm birth. Although evidence for all of these is actually weak. However, it may be a strategy that you might like to give a try under the guidance of your prenatal dietitian, just to see if it does improve your pregnancy carpal tunnel. Now, tip number 3 is to consider boosting your intake of omega-3 fats. Increasing omega-3 intake has been found to reduce inflammation, and one small study found that omega-3 fats significantly reduced pain for people with carpal tunnel syndrome. So, we also know that omega-3 intakes have been associated with a reduced risk of preterm birth. So for most women, there's not going to be any harm in trying. However, as always, it's best to check with your treating team to determine whether this intervention will be safe for you and your baby. Now remember to subscribe, and if you haven't done so already, download my free pregnancy meal plan from melaniemcgrice.com/pregnancy to help you optimize your pregnancy eating habits. What you eat during pregnancy can make a really big difference to the future health of your bubba. So do the best that you can to eat as well as you can during this important time. Make sure that you check out some of my other pregnancy videos on topics such as can my baby taste in the womb? And I look forward to seeing you in my next video. I can't remember. Oh. Thank you for picking that up.